I'm starting to get tired of Fujifilm and I've been thinking of maybe switching to something else in the near future. Let's talk about it. Wait, I forgot my coffee. Stay there. Okay, now that that's taken care of, we can talk about why I'm getting tired of Fujifilm and why I've been wanting to switch to something. I'm using the Fujifilm X-H2S, which is Fujifilm's flagship camera, and I'm just gonna pull up my notes here. And I think the X-H2S as a flagship is not good enough. It has some issues that I'm getting more and more tired of, and I just want something a little bit more reliable. The main issue I have with the X-H2S is that it freezes on me maybe every third shoot. The camera just blocks. I need to remove the battery, I need to turn it off, turn it back on. The whole process lasts like 5 to 10 seconds. It's not like it takes me 20 minutes to fix it, but still, if it happened during a wedding, maybe during the first kiss or something, I would be pissed off. Luckily, every time until now it happened during not so crucial moments, so I didn't get into trouble because of it, but it's getting risky. And I know some people will say use original Fujifilm batteries or change the cards or anything, and this has happened to me with the Fujifilm battery as many times as with third-party batteries, regardless of which cards I've been using. If I've been using just one card or dual cards, it seems to just don't matter, and it keeps happening, so I honestly don't know what else I can try. The main issue is the freezing. The other issues I have with it is the autofocus, which is not good. Some people in reviews keep saying that it's catching up to Sony and Canon, but in my opinion, it's definitely not. I had situations where I was shooting family group photos during weddings. I'm at f4, there is light, the scene is good, and it would just back focus onto the background, which it has no reason to do so. I wasn't even using eye autofocus or anything like that, and I keep getting the back focusing issue with a lot of different scenes and situations, which is becoming a pain in the ass. I don't know if the sun is blowing me out, I hope not, but I'm gonna keep talking. So yeah, for now we have two big issues with the camera, the freezing and the back focusing. The next thing I would like to talk about is the sensor and high ISO performance, which is decent, but it's not great. It's probably the best when it comes to crop sensors, APS-C, but compared to any other full frame camera, it's definitely lacking, and I'm starting to kind of want to get back into full frame and get back into being able to shoot higher ISOs without sacrificing image quality, without having too much grain in the photos. The good thing with Fujifilm sensors is that even when you get grain at high ISOs, it's still nice enough. It's not colored grain, it's mostly, I don't know, it feels like film grain, so it's not that bad, but I would like something where I can push the ISO to 10,000 if the situation is bad and still get a decently clear image. I did shoot a bunch of times at 10,000 and even 12,500 with this camera and managed to get decent photos with using denoise in Lightroom, but I would love to be able to do it without having to denoise the photos a bunch and still having decent image quality. And I don't want it to sound like it's all bad, like I'm shitting on Fujifilm, because I do like this camera. I like the image that I get, especially for video. I love how it performs, but I think there is better for the price. Now, thinking about what camera I would go to, the main thing I think about is I want to be able to use the Tamron 35 to 150 f2 to f2.8, which seems like a dream lens for me. It seems perfect for events, for weddings and for sports, so I would love to get that. And this takes Canon all the way out of the picture because they don't support third-party lenses, so what I'm left with is Sony and Nikon. One thing that I really need to have in my camera is the ability to shoot 4K 60, because that's what I shoot for weddings, and I want it to be no crop. So that takes out a lot of the cheaper Sony bodies like the A7 IV, which for shooting 4K 60 goes into an APS-C crop, and that's definitely not ideal. What Sony does offer that doesn't give me any crops would be the A7S III or FX3, which have 12 megapixels, and that's too low for photography, so those are out. the A1 and A9 III, which are way too expensive for what I can afford and what I want to pay, so that's definitely out. Maybe an A7 IV, if it comes out sometime soon, would be a good option because it will definitely have 4K 60 no crop, so that might be an option in the future, especially because I'm not trying to upgrade this right now and I just want to have clear ideas for when I do decide to spend the money and get new gear. So with Nikon, there is the Z8 and Z9. Both are great, but both are way too expensive for what I want to pay. And then just recently Nikon put out the Z6 III, and the Z6 III is almost the perfect camera for me. Looking at the specs of the Z6 III, it's basically a Fujifilm X-H2S just full frame. It does 4K 60 no crop, it does 6K, but it doesn't do it like the X-H2S with open gate, and in my opinion that's not an issue because even with the X-H2S I only used open gate like 4 or 5 times when I first got it, but I really don't need it for anything and I don't really use it, so I don't care about 6K at all. All I want is 4K 60. Another important thing for me is having a fast buffer, so when I'm shooting weddings I can shoot photos and switch to video really quickly without having to wait too much. And from what I have seen online, Nikon cameras have an amazingly fast buffer, which sounds ideal to me. I still haven't used one. I'm hoping to get my hands on one and trying it out before I decide to buy it, but we'll see. In terms of megapixels, it's the same as my X-H2S. It's I think 26 megapixels, which is perfect for me. I don't want huge files. I don't care about having a 40, 50, 60 megapixel camera because it's just not needed. Even with 26 megapixels, you can crop, still retain great image quality, still be able to print decently big prints, so it doesn't matter. Something I like with the Z6 III better than the X-H2S is that N-Log has a lower base ISO. It's 800 compared to the 1250 that F-Log2 in the Fujifilms need, and that's great. I would still love it to be a bit lower, but it's decent and it's definitely usable. Something I don't care about at all with my cameras is high burst rates, so I honestly don't know if the X-H2S does 20 or 40 or 30 because I never go above 8, maybe 10 if I'm shooting skateboarding or sports or something, but I rarely do shoot sports, so it doesn't really matter to me. 5 to 8 is more than enough for any wedding situation, so that's perfect for me. I'm really interested in the Z6 III's viewfinder, which is supposed to be 4000 nits of brightness, which is just crazy. That sounds like it might burn my eye once I start looking through it. I have no idea, but yeah, sounds really good, especially in situations like this where the sun is going straight into my face and I need to be able to see well through my viewfinder. And both Sony and Nikon seem like great options because there is a lot of support with third-party glass, which is always great and which I love to see because I'm paying for everything out of my pocket. I don't have sponsors, my YouTube channel is small, so I need to buy the gear that I want to use, and being able to buy something from a third-party lens manufacturer who still make great glass is definitely a big plus when buying a camera. And that's another reason why I wouldn't go to Canon. I think that even at the point when I do switch from Fujifilm, I will still keep my Fujifilm X-T3 just because I like the camera and it's too bit up to sell. And yeah, it's nice to have something that's not my work camera, that's not associated with clients, with paid shoots and with work, but that's just something that's fun and that's nice to take around and shoot with. So I will definitely keep my Fujifilm X-T3 and at least one lens for it so I can take it on trips and just shoot with it for fun. Also, since Nikon came out with the Z8, Z9 and Z6 III, it seems that their autofocus is so much better that it would be reliable for me and would be a much better option than Fujifilm. I don't know what Fujifilm engineers are doing and how they haven't fixed the autofocus yet. Even with the 6.0 firmware update for the X-H2S, we got subject tracking for video, but it ruined eye autofocus and it generally held the autofocus a step back from where it was with the previous firmware update. So I don't know, now we got firmware 7.0 and I still get back focusing issues when taking photos, so I don't know what I can do. I still haven't tried the subject tracking for video since the update, but I don't use that too much, so I don't really care about it. All I care about is that when I'm locked on to a person, it gets the eye or at least the face in focus and doesn't focus on the background. That's all I want. So yeah, let me know what you think about the Z6 III, about a possible A7 V. Do you think I'm exaggerating and I should keep the X-H2S? Anyways, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, it's been a few hours since I filmed the video and I just stumbled onto a YouTube video about Fujifilm autofocus regarding the firmware. I can't remember the name of the guy who made the video, but I'm gonna put it here. Anyways, he made a test where he compared firmware 7 against firmware 103 for the Fujifilm X-H2S. And firmware 103 seemed to have much better autofocus tracking both in video and photo when using mechanical shutter, but in photo with electronic shutter it was a little bit worse. I just downgraded the firmware on my X-H2S to 1.03 and I'm gonna be testing it out over the next week or so and probably make a video about it when I have more information of how it performs in real world situations and if I still get the back focusing issue that I was getting for the past few months with the newer firmwares.